All right, guys, welcome to another edition of the Brian Turner Basketball Podcast. And if you can see this, all right, as of May 21st, okay, hot off the press, and they slid this in on us, man, right before the holiday. So now the NCAA is not officially trying to ban international players. But what they're trying to do, all right, moving forward is have stricter eligibility rules when it comes to these guys that are coming from overseas. All right. So, uh, you're going to hear a lot of talking about this in the next couple months, hot off AAU season. You just had one of the EYBL sessions, some of the certified events that are going on. Now, kids are making their way back to their high school teams for high school certification events that are coming up in June. So they dropped this in on us. All right. And the first thing that I see, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, the NCAA is not trying to just ban international players. I mean, as you can see, the game of basketball is in good hands when it comes to international players. You got Wemby, you got SGA, you got Jokic. I mean, so the game of basketball is flourishing when it comes to the international players. And I've talked about this on numerous occasions, the difference between international players and American players, based on just we've lost the notion of trying to be great at something. The American players not trying to be the best of what I've seen. But when I see with these guys coming in from other countries, they don't have a whole lot of the distractions that are surrounded the game of basketball. I think a lot of our kids in America are running up trying to chase the NIL bag, and they're looking at this game as a hustle. It's turned into hustle culture. So the hustle culture has came into the American game, where the international players are just looking at it like, hey, how can we be great and come into a situation where it's just wide open, so the NCAA is pretty much believes that some international players are already professionals. And so what they're doing, they've been professionals for years. They've came up playing like professionals, practicing like professionals. When you see their pro experience compared to a lot of the American players, as far as the NCAA experience, the systems are different. And so I think this is the way that the NCAA is trying to get a hold of making sure that the system is right. So it says a major concern is that many international players, all right, compete in overseas clubs and their systems where they receive housing, stipend, all right, training money, and they play professional organizations, all right before they come to college. And so can American players do that? Some may argue that this whole AAU culture, which you're not actually paying the players, but you're giving them perks. They get products, they get brand new shoes and bags and sweatshirts. So you're not paying them as far as a monetary value, but you're giving them perks, all right, to have your brand, have these young superstar kid, up and coming superstar kids, pretty much wear your brand. So again, college sports, all right, should not be coming like a fallback option to the professionals. And so that's what we're seeing a lot of these guys do. Some of these guys make it to the league, as we saw with the kids from Baylor, make it to the league, realize that they're not NBA players, and then they're trying to find a way back to the NCAA, which is pretty much like a backward system. Okay. So the NCAA is just trying to have basically a new philosophy that they're trying to come with. All right. They're ripping up the old rules and just saying, hey, this is what we're looking at to be in like the new rules to the game. Okay. NIL revenue sharing, all right, has turned international player recruitment, all right, into an arms race. Since the NIL and the House settlement changed college sports financially, schools have aggressively tried to recruit international players. So again, we saw the situation with Baylor. We saw Illinois this year make it to the Final Four with a lot of international kids. So we know that this is a copycat type of league, especially with our sports. So it's like, what have you done for me lately? If we see these teams over here doing this, we want to jump on this bandwagon and we want to try to follow the leader. All right. International players, right, are taking a lot of these roster spots for the NCAA teams. All right. So that's where the big problem is coming in. So they're trying to rework a lot of this. And I mean, yes, a lot of people are going to say, follow the money, but specifically follow the money. How? All right. The American high school recruiting is getting squeezed out. We talk about this a lot on this podcast about how hard it is for me as a high school coach to try to get my players recruited to some of these top schools because they're not trying to recruit high school players. They would much rather pluck someone that's 13th or 14th on the bench of some of these big schools and give them a scholarship, give them NIL money to fill that roster spot as opposed to waiting on a young 17, 18-year-old to be developed. Okay. Another reason why the NCAA is doing a lot of this scaling back and ripping up the old rules and trying to present new rules, visa and immigration laws are creating massive problems, all right, with athletes all around the world under this F1 student visa, all right? So again, the problem is NIL money, revenue sharing, again, paid appearances, brand deals, all right, can legally look like employment under U.S. immigration laws. So they're trying to make sure that they don't get caught in any type of sticky situation. We're putting these guys through, and again, having these different brands represent some of these players that are not even American born athletes, but they're getting American perks from being in the NCAA. Okay, so it says several legal experts have warned that international athletes could risk visa violations, deportation issues, and future immigration problems if they receive compensations improperly. Okay, so leaving the door wide open for fraud. And as we follow stuff that's going on in the news, I mean, fraud is just it's a big topic that's going on, where you're seeing a lot of folks that are just fleecing the American people when it comes to tax money. All right. And then last but not least, man, schools want age and eligibility limits tightened. All right. Another major issue, some international players are older and more physically developed because of overseas club systems and delayed college entry. And a lot of times when these guys come over, I'm just going to keep it a buck, man. These guys are not the age that they say they are. And it's so easy to slide kids up under the radar. You know, I'm watching a lot of these highlights on social media, and these kids are, you know, supposedly 15, 16 years old, but they look like they did at least 5 or 6 years in the Army, being very, very mature, very, very athletic, and just dominating the game to the point where, all right, you get ranked. Now that ups your value to, you know, to go to these schools left and right. So again, 22 to 24 old international freshmen create imbalancement. So again, on paper, they may be 22, 24, but again, you don't know how long these guys have been here, what type of things that they've tried to put in the mix to escape their situation, to get over to America, to where, all right, we can kind of dominate this system. Because again, it's like the wild, wild west, and nobody is really talking about it. Nobody is coming forward saying anything about it. All right. But I want to know your comments on this. Should the NCAA ban international players from coming over competing in the NCAA school sports, not the NBA? Now we're talking about the NCAA. All right. School sanction events, high schools. Should international players be allowed to play in it? Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I'm interested to see how this is going to play out, man, because this is just the beginning of the summer. So let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys on the next video.